So, folks, as many of you may have noticed, there's a lot of xenophobia and racism currently fueling the Republican Party and Republican movement, right? Now, why do I say that? Well, because there has been an encroaching attack on uh, an up and coming politician here in my neck of the woods, in Minneapolis, named Omar Fateh. Okay. And, well, the attacks on him are interesting to say the least. They range from ineffective, effectively trying to label him as the next Zoran Mamdani, which that's not a bad thing in the minds of most people, right? But well, it gets a little weird, right? Minneapolis has a new candidate for mayor. Meet Omar Fateh, a Democratic state senator who, much like New York City's Zoran Mamdani, thinks real socialism has never been tried. Fateh, the son of Somali immigrants to the United States, is also Muslim. Both detractors and supporters have focused far too much on this aspect of Fateh's identity, veiling what actually matters: that Fateh has harebrained ideas about how to govern. Now, this article references Charlie Kirk. Let's take a look at Charlie Kirk here. Oh, wait, that's not Charlie Kirk. That's Stephen Miller, the current, one of the current movers and shakers in the current Trump administration. Why? That's so strange. Here, let's take a look at Charlie Kirk. Let's see. In response to Omar Fateh is running for Minneapolis mayor to raise the minimum wage by over $4 over a few years, freeze rent, and Trump-proof the city. That sounds great. Charlie Kirk says, Muslims are commanded to take over the government in the land they live. The attempted Islamic takeover of America is made possible thanks to mass migration. Y'all realize that's just racism, right? Like, Omar Fateh was born in Washington, D.C. Like, he's a native-born American. It doesn't matter to people like Charlie Kirk because they're racist and xenophobic and Islamophobic. They're just scared of anything that isn't, lighter than mayonnaise. Like this is just an unhinged level of bigotry, and it's out in the open. Now, let's take a look at Omar Fateh's campaign ad here. Let's take a look. Here, it's on his website.
We all start our days in different ways, but we're all trying to get to the same place. A vibrant city filled with the love of family, friends, and neighbors. That's what makes Minneapolis home. We choose to live here. We raise our families here. We start our businesses here. We make our lives here. We work hard for the city we love. And we deserve a city that works as hard as we do. I'm Senator Omar Fateh, and I'm running for mayor of Minneapolis. From the streets to City Hall, Minneapolis is full of people with big ideas. But we don't have a mayor ready to invest in the long-term solutions that bring security to our communities. Imagine a city where everyone has access to the right public safety services at the right time. Imagine a city that invests in public education for every student. Imagine a city that backs all of its workers fighting for fair wages. But I don't want you to just imagine that city. I want you to live it. As a Minnesota senator, I've written and passed bills that made a real difference in the lives of working people, and I'm ready to bring that leadership to Minneapolis. When the city invests in you, you have more time to invest in the people you love. Block by block, you're already building the city you want to see. It's time you had a mayor willing to work alongside you, and I'm ready for us to build a city that works for everyone.
Like, one, that ad is cute as hell. Number one. Number two, like, I know these places. I know this gas station. Like, this is a guy who cares deeply about this city. I know these streets. I know these buildings. And, like, dude is just genuinely a good guy. You see this footage of him being, like, held up by people? That's because he was the guy who wrote the bill in Minnesota to get Uber and Lyft drivers a minimum wage. people love him for that. He has actively fought for working folks in this city and in this state, right? And so he knows what he's about. And unfortunately, Tim Walz, to much chagrin, actually vetoed the minimum pay for Uber and Lyft drivers, which was a major L on his part. But like Omar Fateh is like, he's the real deal. He's a great dude. And he's been getting some of the most virulent, hateful attacks. Here is Stephen Miller talking about him.
Well, they're championing sex slavery. They're championing child slavery. They're championing labor trafficking. They're championing foreign terrorist organizations. But also they're championing the theft of American dollars, the theft of American lives, and the theft of American dreams. Nobody has the right to invade our country, fill up our emergency rooms, take our health care, take our jobs, take our tax dollars.
You know, just want to point out here that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are taking our tax dollars and taking away our health care to a far greater degree than any undocumented immigrant has ever done.
Live an entire life on free welfare. You know, every illegal alien family that Joe Biden and his party imported into this country that has 5 kids, 6 kids, 7 kids, who do you think is paying for their health care? Who do you think is paying for their education? Who do you think is paying for their food, their shelter, their housing, all of it? The working and middle class of this country.
No, they're paying for it because they're also working people, you racist goon. You forgot your clan robes, Stephen.
We have communities all across this nation that 20 years ago, before the era of open borders, were completely peaceful, completely stable, thriving middle classes. Look at a place like Minneapolis. Post-mass migration, they are unsafe, they are violent. You cannot use the public parks. The education systems don't function. How often have we heard about how the education system in this country is collapsing? Maybe what brought it to the brink of collapse was importing millions upon millions of people from the developing world who are not even literate or fluent in their home languages, who can't even read or write in their home language.
This man is made out of pure hatred, and in a just society, we would yeet him off a bridge. Thankfully for his well-being, we don't live in a just society, I suppose.
Languages brought here. So you have the violence, you have the social decay, you have the enormous cost. Has ever so great an abuse been heaped upon innocent people as what was done to Americans through a forced policy of mass migration?
When I say he's talking about Omar Fateh here, he's literally trying to vilify people who come to this country, you know, quote unquote, the right way. Like, Omar Fateh is a native-born American, but this man still thinks of him in the same category as a product of mass migration. This man has the audacity to talk about, you know, oh, what mass migration has done to Minneapolis. It hasn't done anything bad to Minneapolis. There are people that Minnesota has taken as refugees from all over the world, and you know what? They make this area great. I think it's great that I can get Hmong food. I think it's great that I can get Somali food. I think it's great that I can get Ethiopian food. I think it's great that I can go out there and get a bunch of different kinds of cuisines from all over the world, from places I've never been, and it's great that people can share their culture with me in that way. I think that's wonderful. I think it enriches my life to see different kinds of people out and about doing their own thing in my community. I think it's great that I can go to the closest park to me and see people doing all kinds of different activities. Some that I like am familiar with from growing up, but also some activities where I'm just like, oh, I never would have thought of doing that. That's so cool. When I walk around a lake here, there is all kinds of there are all kinds of references to indigenous culture. I think that enriches my life. I'm not indigenous, but I think that enriches my life. Stephen Miller over here is talking about how, like, oh, these people are barely literate. I don't think I've ever seen Stephen Miller read a single damn thing. I don't believe Stephen Miller's literate. Because I think, to some degree, to be literate, you have to have a heart. But when Charlie Kirk and Stephen Miller fearmonger about this, it's always to denigrate the places they're talking about. They view Minneapolis as fundamentally damaged because we have more black and brown people in the area, because we have more Latino people in the area. They are the ones who think that we are damaged, that our communities are lesser because we have non-white people living in them. That is the position of people like Charlie Kirk and Stephen Miller. It enrages me. And in response to Charlie Kirk's virulent bigotry, Minneapolis is a beautifully diverse city that stands firm in our progressive values. The hate I've seen today and most days is not who we will ever be. I'm running for mayor to work with you to achieve the affordable city we know Minneapolis can be. And I mean, that is a generous as fuck statement. Just last month, my friends John and Yvette Hoffman were severely injured, and Melissa and Mark Hortman were murdered in a hateful attack targeting elected DFLers, myself included. This hateful rhetoric has no place in our politics, and we cannot let this vitriol flow unchecked. I remain committed to working with everyone who calls Minneapolis home to build a city that works for everyone, for our small businesses, to our renters and homeowners, to our transit riders. Let's build a better Minneapolis and a better nation together. And like, I mean, in response to that, like, just like, do you also marry your family? It's disgusting. The amount of vitriol. He was also targeted by the would-be assassin, or not even would-be, by the political assassin. Like, what is wrong? What are his crimes? Like, what are the issues that Republicans have with him, that Charlie Kirk has with him? That he was born to Somali parents? That he grew up in a Muslim household? This is just bigotry, plain and simple. And it's ugly and grotesque. And I want to take a look at something here. This is from one Matthew Walsh.
Rain is one of the best times to fish, as long as the rain's not too heavy. Like a light rain is in perfect conditions. Anyway, and here's the best part. It actually zips into the bear.
Oh, God.
The summer of George Floyd, the socialists in the government of Seattle were celebrating. And here's what one member of Seattle City Council, an Indian woman by the name of Kshama Sawant, wrote on social media at the time, quote, "Our tax Amazon movement has made history. Seattle City Council just voted to pass an Amazon tax on the largest corporations to fund affordable housing and jobs to begin to end racist gentrification. This is entirely because of the thousands of working people, unions, socialists, et cetera," close quote. So this was a tax that politicians like Kshama Sawant had been pushing for quite some time. Watch this.
Right now, we have enormous momentum to pass a tax on big business. In other words, an Amazon tax in our city.
A new tax on big businesses, Councilmember Kshama Sawant says. And this time around, she's asking for a lot more.
So I would say we have to look at something like $300 to $500 million to be raised every year with no sunset clause, meaning having the construction of affordable housing every year with union jobs, with energy efficient buildings.
Something, by the way, that Seattle absolutely can achieve, by the way, given the big businesses that are in Seattle.
Promise, as you heard, was to raise hundreds of millions of dollars by taxing the most successful business in the city and then redistributing that.
Yeah, it's the most successful business in the city, Matt. It can afford to pay more in taxes. That's the premise.
Money towards union jobs, affordable housing, and energy efficient buildings. In other words, she's going to steal money from productive companies and redistribute it to various left-wing projects and handouts.
Now, the flaw in Matt Walsh's thinking here, as we know his thinking is flawed, is that all taxes redistribute wealth in some way. If the wealth isn't being redistributed from the top of society to the bottom, which is what she is suggesting, then instead what is being suggested is either doing nothing, maintaining status quo, and inequality gets bigger and bigger and bigger, or the reverse, which is you tax the bottom of society and give to the top. That is what we have called in the past trickle-down economics. It does not work. So, like, all taxes are redistributive. That's the point of taxation. It's not theft unless the entirety of human history is built on a concept you consider theft, I suppose, if you've really bent the meaning of theft.
Never mind the fact that Kshama Sawant has never created anything of value since arriving in this country in her mid-20s.
Well, that's not true. She created a base of support and a base of voters, which actually matters in a democracy, Matt.
She's a socialist, so therefore she gets to dictate how the economy of Seattle will work.
No, she's an elected official in Seattle, and therefore she gets to work with other elected officials in Seattle to establish a tax policy. I know that this is very difficult for you, Matt, but that's how local governments work.
That's the idea.
And I guarantee you, that's how your local government works, Matt.
And for several years, Seattle went along with it. They put foreign socialism into action. And how did it turn out? Well, as you'd expect, businesses began leaving Seattle. More workers stayed at home. Companies like Expedia conducted mass layoffs. The results has been less tax revenue and fewer jobs. In other words, socialism failed, as it always does. And to give you an idea of how dire things have become,
let's take a look. I'm curious to see if there's any I don't know. There's any kind of metric we can take a look at here. Oh, well, this is interesting. Here's the 2024 Greater Seattle Tech Industry Report. Let's take a look at this. Wait a minute. This doesn't look like an implosion of businesses, Matt. Matt, wait a minute. That actually looks like the Greater Seattle tech industry was growing year over year. That's crazy, Matt. It got bigger after she said those things, Matt. Wait a minute. Huh. Why, I never. Oh, fewer people were working. Then, Matt, why was the population grow? Oh, this was until 2016. Clearly, the population must have imploded. Let's take a look. Huh, wait a minute. The population just continued to grow. It's almost 200,000 more than it was 20 years ago, Matt. Why, that's wild, Matt.
It got bigger after she said those things. I bet it did. BWA.
Paladin, thank you for the $10 dono.
To be fair, he boycotted Sesame Street so he never learned how to count, or spell, or
It's
tell
true.
jokes,
It's
or
true.
be a decent human being.
Oh, huh. You know, I'm curious here. Here's from 2025. You know, clearly this would be like one of the like the epicenter where basically like the entirety of society is collapsing here. Wait a minute. Seattle tops GDP growth among large markets from a 2024 analysis from December of 2024. So this analysis was released this year. That's a greater GDP growth than Houston, Austin, Orlando, Tampa, Miami, Denver, the Bay Area, Dallas, or Phoenix. That's, well, what about all of that theft, though, Matt? That's so strange that the facts don't bear you out.
Here's a recent headline from one of Seattle's local news outlets. Quote, "This is catastrophic. Seattle payroll tax revenue $47 million short as jobs leave the city."
Let's see here. Let's take a look at that article. Cairo News, catastrophic payroll. Okay. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell released his payroll expense tax report for 2024 on Tuesday, and its projections come up nearly $50 million short. Today's announcement that pet revenues collected in 2024 were $47 million lower than projected requires action to ensure our budget remains balanced. So, shorter than projected is a bit different, but okay. Harrell said that his 2025 budget proposal was based on the projections from the Independent Office of Economic and Revenue Forecasts. But since they got it wrong, the mayor said, for the 2026 budget, my office will consider all options, including additional revenue sources and appropriate expense reductions to ensure we are making the priority investments and funding the essential services that matter to our residents. All right. So KTTH host Jason Rantz is the person who is being cited here. The host of the Jason Rantz show. And I don't know what that is. Let's take a look. Oh, he's a local like conservative radio host. So the quote of "this is catastrophic" directly from this local radio host. Okay. interesting to say the least. Let's all right. That's our source. On the one hand, we have local radio guy. Now, let's take a look. What does the mayor say? This decrease in revenue is aligned with recent reports of major employers moving thousands of high-paying jobs out of Seattle to other cities in our region. Large corporations should pay their fair share, and we should be wary when they use job placements to avoid paying funding that our communities rely on. But we must also recognize that businesses make choices based on their bottom line. We need to design our tax policies with the full context of our economy and a comprehensive view that ensures we raise the revenue needed to support all of our residents in a progressive way aligned with our values. Wow, this news article is really dog shit. On the one hand, we have a news radio guy. On the other hand, we have a news radio guy. News radio political analyst Matt Markovich says the revenue drop is concerning, but notes that $47 million can be made up in the next budget cycle, which is absolutely true. Now, I would like to know, for example, how many jobs left? You know, the claim here is about jobs. Let's take a look. Wait a minute. This is the issue. So Seattle has basically a level of employment growth that is in line with the national employment growth. And also, it's still growing. They're adding more jobs. From 2020 to 2025, they're still growing by around 2.5%, the number of jobs. And on top of that, if they projected more job growth than they actually got, like say they're off by a couple, like 1% in their projection, that could easily account for $47 million. Like this is actually not the catastrophic thing that they are talking about. See how it clarifies things when you just like seek out additional data and information, chat?
Here's how Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell assessed the situation. Quote, today's announcement that payroll tax revenues collected in 2024 were $47 million lower than projected requires action to ensure our budget remains balanced. This decrease in revenue is aligned with recent reports of major employers moving thousands of high-paying jobs out of Seattle to other cities in our region. Well, imagine that. Kshama Sawant became a socialist in India. She brought her ideas to this country, and her ideas, in a very observable way, made this country worse, to the point that the Democrats running the city can't even deny it. And we're seeing a lot of this lately, if you haven't noticed. Of course, a few weeks ago, as we talked about, a Muslim socialist, someone who wants to eliminate the police department, establish state-run grocery stores.
Well, wait a minute. Zoran Mamdani isn't running on eliminating the police department. Matt, are you just telling lies? Like, I could forgive you for looking up one article on the situation in Seattle and getting, like, just coming to your own conclusions on that because you're a fundamentally incurious person. Like, that makes sense to me. But saying that Zoran Mamdani wants to eliminate the police department, that's just an outright lie, and you know that.
Nationalized rental properties dominated the primary in the mayor's race in New York. He's very likely to lead New York very soon. He'll probably win the general election, and he's very, very far ahead in the lead. And now in Minneapolis, a similar election is about to unfold. A Muslim socialist named Omar Fateh, who represents the district where George Floyd overdosed, is now gaining traction in the mayor's race. And before we go any further, just think about that credential. He's a socialist who represents the district where George Floyd overdosed, which happens to be one of the most dangerous and least desirable places to live in the country.
You know, if only Omar Fateh had, I don't know, taken note of how many people were dying of like fentanyl overdoses and introduced some kind of legislation to, I don't know, reduce the number of people killed by fentanyl overdoses. If only he had introduced some kind of state level bill to, I don't know, say decriminalize fentanyl test strips in the state so that they could be given out for free and save people's lives to help them avoid overdosing on drugs that they didn't know were laced with fentanyl, which is something that happens quite a lot in places that, you know, that happens. Wait. He did that. Minnesota decriminalized fentanyl test strips in order to save lives, and it has been overwhelmingly successful. Okay? So that's point number one. Point number two, George Floyd was murdered, Matt. I would like to see you survive, 10 minutes of a cop's full weight on your goddamn neck, man. God. I mean, either way you want to take it here, it's just bullshit. To attack him on fentanyl overdoses, he's like the last guy you should ever try and come at on that. And number two, y'all shouldn't be coming after, George Floyd like he died from an overdose when he was fucking murdered by a cop, as agreed by a goddamn jury of his peers. Absolutely disgusting. But, Matt Walsh is a virulent racist, so, it's kind of his thing.
And to give you some local color, here's what that means in practice. This is what George Floyd Square was like post-BLM. Watch.
This bill of comprehensive police reform to be... just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us. It sounds like gunshots. I'll let you know what this is.
So there it is. That's...
Were those gunshots? I don't know, man. You got to actually demonstrate what happened there. Because generally, it's a pretty fine area to be. And the reason it hasn't been finished, by the way, is because the city has been dragging its heels on a projected redesign of that area in order to memorialize it and make it more official. So I don't know. Seems kind of like you're just saying shit without any actual information to back it up, which is interesting. Also, can we take a look at what it actually looked like in the wake? I don't know. People came together in solidarity here, and they were perfectly safe.
Omar Fateh's home turf, and he wants all of Minneapolis, and indeed all the United States, to look just like that. Like the Muslim socialist in New York, Omar Fateh is not subtle about his intentions. He's not hiding anything. Instead,
I love how Matt Walsh believes, and in some cases he might be correct, that his audience is dumb enough that they're yeah, Omar Fateh wants every place in America to just be full of gunshots, and nah, bud, that's you. You want guns everywhere. You want the guns everywhere. How do you know those gunshots weren't by law-abiding Americans using them in self-defense? That's you guys. You want that. You want every U.S. citizen to be able to have a gun? You guys think it makes people safer? Those are the sounds of freedom ringing out to you guys. What are you talking about? This is the world you are in favor of.
He's made it very clear that he works with other Somali politicians in Minnesota.
He works with other politicians in Minnesota. Guys, he's a good politician. He was put in charge of the Minnesota Senate's higher education committee. He's been doing good work here. He introduced a bill that made college education free to anyone from a family that makes under $80,000 a year. Dude does good work here. And Matt Walsh is just oh yeah, he's conspiring with the other Somalis. And what the fuck, man? This is just vile racism. This is just vile racism from a guy who has dedicated himself to improving this city.
To advance the interests of Somalia.
No! He's a fucking American, you racist ass. He was born in Washington, D.C. This is saying, yes, look at Matt Walsh, here to advance the interests of Germany. It's fucking gross.
Not of the United States or of his local constituents. He's also referred to Somalia.
Please, tell us more. What leads you to this conclusion that this native-born American man is working on behalf of Somalia? What evidence do you have? Is it literally just he's brown, though? Damn. Matt, you're forgetting your Klan robes again.
As our home, even though he was actually born in Washington and grew up in Virginia. Watch.
Investing in increasing affordable housing and not gentrifying our neighborhoods. These are all things that are causing harm to our community because of this idea that there isn't money, when in reality, we do have this money to spend on this. It's just that we're choosing not to. It's not a value of ours. So right now, we're blessed to have 3 Somali elected officials at the Capitol, me, Sister Holden Hassan, who's in the State House, and Brother Mahmoud Noor. And we work very closely together. And we carry each other's bills. So the way it works is if there's a bill in the House, it needs an identical bill to be carried in the Senate for it to be negotiated and to pass in the committees and then go on for the floor session and then go on to the governor's signature. So we're able to pass our bills back and forth that'll help benefit our communities.
Wow. So they have a internal caucus in the Minnesota legislature? The horror. This literally happens all the time. Every part of our politics, man.
I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home. And I ask for your support.
Yeah, our Somali communities, because there are some people who are born here and there are other people who migrated here. And people who are born here, people who came here, they have connections back to Somalia. This isn't hard to understand. They're not agents of Somalia. They just have family there, man. Holy shit. This is like me trying to accuse someone, you're an agent of Wisconsin. Like, and they're like, but I live here in Minnesota. Yeah, but you have family back there in Wisconsin. You're here to subvert Minnesota politics. Like, that's just nonsense. You're here to get the cheese over everything, aren't you? You're always talking about cheese. Like, no, like, come on, man. This is just racism.
There's always been a link between our community here as well as back home. And I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we succeed everywhere.
Yeah. How dare he talk to this community that was built off of like refugees and immigrants? How dare he talk about bridging that gap?
And I'm hoping to do that just like Abdrazak, inshallah.
So he's really outright admitting that Somali politicians are engaged in a conspiracy against the United States.
This is maybe one of the dumbest things Matt Walsh has ever said. He should feel bad. He should vomit on these words.
They're working together to loot the treasury to serve the interests of foreign nationals.
He's literally trying to say that because this guy is brown and his parents are from Somalia, that he's trying to become the mayor of Minneapolis so that they can steal money from the Minneapolis taxpayers to fund something in Somalia based on no evidence whatsoever. Because that's not anything like what was just said at all. He's talking to a diaspora community. Like, he's talking to people who've been dispersed across Minnesota. He's talking about making sure that he's speaking to them and their interests. And like, that makes sense. That's something you should do when you're talking to your constituents. God damn.
They're not hiding it. And that's their goal in every case.
I don't know. Like, usually Matt Walsh is like stupid in a way that's like, I don't know, I can mock it. I'm kind of speechless at how racist this asshole is being about someone in my own backyard.
It doesn't matter that Omar was born here. It doesn't matter whether his parents were legal immigrants or not.
Yeah, because to you, all that matters is that he's brown, you racist fuck.
None of that matters. His goal remains the same. He was born in America, but he's not actually an American.
That doesn't make sense, you racist piece of shit. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think Matt Walsh is an American because he clearly has allegiance with the devil. He owes the devil his loyalty. He's been put here on this earth to do the devil's work, and he's here taking all the money from the hard-working Daily Wire subscribers in order to use it for the devil's ends. He's not an American. He is of the devil. He's here representing the devil's interest. This goddamn piece of shit.
America is not his home. He's very proudly admitted that.
He hasn't. You're just illiterate and racist.
Omar Fateh, like the other Somali politicians in Minnesota, understands that he can take advantage of us. So they're all doing it to their great benefit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's here to take advantage of us. Let's take a look. Oh, yeah, he's taking advantage of us by getting poor families free college education. Damn, that's crazy. That's wild. Yeah, he's taking advantage of his constituents so much that in the last time he was up for election, he won 90% of the vote in the general election. Let me reiterate that. In the last general election, Omar Fateh won over 90% of the vote. His first time that he was in the general election for this spot, he won over 80% of the vote. He literally gained between the two elections because he actually serves his constituents and they like him. What Matt Walsh is trying to imply here is that the people of Minnesota are saps who are being taken for a ride. He's trying to call people who live here moron. It's not just an attack on Omar Fateh, it's an attack on people in Minnesota. It is an attack on the very fabric of what is America. And I don't take very kindly to that. I don't take kindly to the racism. I don't take kindly to the implication that we are morons, because all he's providing are, I deliberately misconstrued what he said, and therefore he's a thief. It's genuinely infuriating. Hey, let's take a look at some of the policies that Omar Fateh is pushing for. Let's take a look. I just want to point out these are all of his policies on protecting our communities from a hostile federal government, on investing in housing, on approaching unsheltered homelessness with compassion, on reforming public safety, on protecting workers and supporting labor, on prioritizing environmental justice, on prioritizing infrastructure, public spaces, and transit, on flourishing commercial corridors through local entrepreneurship, on increasing the city's revenue, on supporting public education. And guess what? Each one of these has a list of different policy positions that he wants to work for. Each and every one of these has a thought out different policies that they want to do. Hey, guess what? Establish a city office for small business success, which will act as a clearinghouse for small business services, feedback, linguistic support, and issue resolution, a place where business owners can turn when they need support navigating city bureaucracy or if they are seeking help in hard times. Explore and implement a commercial vacancy tax to address vacant storefronts. Build on initiatives like the Vibrant Storefronts Initiative and expand the city's role as a facilitator of new business formation by partnering with owners of neglected or underutilized commercial spaces in key districts such as Uptown and Downtown. Establish dedicated loans and grants for businesses facing hardship during construction projects to prevent the displacement of existing local entrepreneurs as piloted by the City Council. Lead in accordance with the reality that the best business climate is one in which all city residents have their basic needs met. Invest ongoing resources in successful programs that stimulate local entrepreneurship. This includes programs like the city's Ownership and Opportunity Fund, which allows local business owners to purchase their storefronts, zero and low interest loans, often known as halal loans, and technical assistance grants. Dude is here running on making it easier to launch a business, revitalizing areas of the downtown that have been largely abandoned by Apple stores and whatnot. Okay? Dude actually has thought out policies. Here, let's take a look. Let's take a look at increasing the city's revenue. Lobby the state of Minnesota to allow the city of Minneapolis to institute a local option income tax to ensure the wealthy pay their fair share. Work with the Minnesota Department of Revenue and Hennepin County to ensure residents are educated on existing property tax relief programs. Explore opportunities for public development and ownership that could increase the tax base while ensuring a broadly beneficial use of space. Explore creative solutions like a commercial vacancy tax to address vacant storefronts, and a land use tax to incentivize development of underutilized parcels. Incentivize converting vacant commercial buildings into residential housing with city support for development that prioritizes affordable housing and public benefit. Take a direct hand in stewarding the revitalization of downtown by leveraging public spaces, including considering the purchase of distressed properties. Protect taxpayer dollars by avoiding unaffordable subsidies for private for-profit facilities like stadiums, arenas, and convention centers. Things that lose the city money. But also, I really like this one because generally speaking, when other cities around the world have bought underutilized or run-down properties and revitalized them, for example, affordable housing, that has met with huge success. Okay, let's take a look at on supporting public education. Expand the Stable Homes, Stable Schools program even further than the City Council already has to ensure no child goes without a home. Use the power of the city to lobby for increased funding for Minneapolis public schools. Work with the City Council to pass a moratorium on new charter schools in Minneapolis. Work with partners at Minneapolis Public Schools and the state of Minnesota to invest in daycare and early childhood education to start our children on a path to success. When all of us have universal access to public education, we can uplift our community and support learning as a lifelong pursuit, which also, by the way, allows people to go to work. It allows people to get to work while their kids are getting childcare and expanding their brain. Increase funding for free city leisure services and work with the Minneapolis Park Board to expand youth programming at every age. Expand the school-based clinics program that provides integrated and holistic health services to high school students. It's nuts. These are all great ideas. Reflect a genuine familiarity with the city, that reflect a genuine concern with improving the working people and the working conditions in this city. All that Matt Walsh can think of to try and attack this guy is, well, he's a secret double agent for Somalia and he's brown. But, well, rather, not and he's brown, but because he's brown. Let's be real about that. Matt Walsh being a racist prick. On prioritizing infrastructure, public spaces, and transit. Work to implement nation-leading visionary policies like the city's transportation action plan and complete streets and Vision Zero policies across the entire city. Address the backlog of neighborhood traffic calming requests and improve safety by implementing calming measures along transit stops, schools, parks, and shopping centers. Implement 24-hour bus lanes on Hennepin Avenue South, a major step forward for sustainable transportation passed by the city council but vetoed by the mayor. A lot of these policies, by the way, were passed by the city council, and the current mayor, Jacob Frey, vetoed them because he's an asshole, essentially. Support the community's vision for George Floyd Square, ensuring the option of a pedestrian mall while supporting the needs of surrounding residents and businesses. Work in partnership with Metro Transit to build more and better bus shelters that are maintained for all seasons, which is really important because it gets fucking cold here.
We've got issues, like police corruption, but I'll be DMD if someone talks to me like that, whose policies consistently lead to failure. I'll pick him in over any red state. MN is better on every metric.
Hell yeah. State pride, Brutus Magnuson. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Utilize the city's authority on signal prioritization to benefit public transportation options like bus and light rail. Invest in public spaces, including public seating, public bathrooms, and indoor spaces. Explore expanding public ownership of housing and commercial space. Support the municipal sidewalk shoveling effort being led by the city council, starting with the pedestrian priority network. Remove unnecessary fencing, blocking residents from public spaces and walkways. Study options for reducing freeway and roadway mileage within city limits. Improve street lighting in commercial corridors and on neighborhood streets while prioritizing reducing light pollution. Establish a transit safety coordinator that will work with my administration, the city council, and Metro Transit to increase the safety of our transit network. I just want to say, understanding that there is a need to just improve lighting on our streets indicates, like, he gets it, man. He gets it. Like, there are so many places here where, like, the lighting is just inadequate for, like, nighttime walks, because it's just so dark that, like, you're kind of like, I can't tell if there's somebody, like, lurking in a bush or something, you know? Increasing the lighting reduces crime. It should be kind of, like, obvious on that one, but, you know, current administration doesn't want to do shit about that. Let's take a look. Environmental justice. Implement the carbon fees passed by the city council. Increase investment in the city's climate legacy initiative to make desperately needed investments in building a climate resilient city. Invest in zero waste initiatives to reduce the city's waste stream and support the responsible closure of the Hennepin Energy Recovery Center incinerator, which, by the way, has been causing health problems for years for people around that. Invest in the weatherization of all homes in Minneapolis, prioritizing aging rental housing first, because when you weatherize homes, it reduces energy needs, but in all seasons. Come on, no brainer here. Work in partnership with the county and state to create permanent indoor space for public use during extreme weather events, like extreme heat, extreme cold, and poor air quality. Because, hey, guess what? When you can do that, you ensure people who don't have other places to go have somewhere to go where they can be safe. center historically marginalized communities like the North Side and South Side green zones in the city's climate resiliency decision-making, support large-scale environmental justice initiatives that will restore city cohesion and empower minority communities like the Twin Cities Boulevard Project and bring back Sixth. Invest in programs that prioritize the transition of the city's vehicle fleet to electric vehicles. That needs to happen, and this is the guy who might actually be able to get it all happening. Let's take a look at protecting workers and supporting labor. Support the Labor Standards Board, a popular initiative the City Council approved that was vetoed by the mayor. Work with the City Council to pass fair scheduling policies so your boss can't just spring a new schedule on you and fuck over your entire week. Fund further co-enforcement to hold employers accountable for workplace abuse, wage theft, earned sick and safe time violations, and other illegal labor practices. You mean this guy wants to go after people who are doing wage theft, the #1 form of theft in the United States? Let's go! Support efforts to increase the Minneapolis minimum wage because he wants to increase it by $4 over the next few years. Because this guy cares about this city. Vision for City of Minneapolis employees. Institute a ratio for the highest to lowest paid employees in the city of Minneapolis, ending with the current practice of exorbitant salaries for management while the frontline employees continue to fall behind. Work collaboratively with the unions representing city employees to ensure workers get fair contracts. Establish a labor relations framework that prioritizes treating all city employees with fairness and dignity, especially throughout the bargaining process. Overhaul the human resources department so that every city employee can trust that their complaints and concerns are taken seriously and addressed quickly. It is unacceptable that the rate of HR complaints has increased significantly under Mayor Frey's tenure. This is not something to be proud of. Appropriately fund employee resource groups to recruit, retain, and support a diverse workforce. Just unambiguously banger after banger policies. Reforming public safety. Implement the reforms outlined in the state and federal consent decrees without hesitation, something that the current mayor hasn't been doing, which is ridiculous. Invest in upstream solutions to reduce crime that results from poverty and lacking access to mental health care, housing, and public spaces. Implement the Safe and Thriving Communities Plan, an existing actionable city policy that Mayor Frey has yet to implement. Which, yeah, the current mayor has just been shitting himself rather than actually doing work, and it sucks. Prioritize more effective MPD recruitment strategies rather than costly and inflated recruitment bonuses. Invest in programs that ensure and the appropriate responders come when we call 911. Over 47% of calls to MPD can be diverted to non-police responders, which, if half of the calls to the police don't need the police, that's something we should probably address as a city. Invest in a well-functioning civil rights department and independent oversight of MPD. Our residents should trust that we are doing everything we can to build a lawful and trustworthy police force. Work with every level of government to reduce recidivism rates, particularly among young people, by investing in youth programming and targeted diversion programs for the most at-risk youth. Because it's kind of insane, but in a lot of places in this country, the focus isn't on reducing recidivism rates. Or to put it another way, the focus isn't on preventing people from committing more crimes after they've committed a crime. The focus is just on punishment, punishment, punishment. And it doesn't matter if they go and do another crime again. Expand the Behavioral Crisis Response Program, which has successfully provided alternative responses to armed officers. Increase investment in other departments under the Office of Community Safety, like the Fire Department, 911, Neighborhood Safety Department, and Emergency Management. Address the systemic mismanagement within the Neighborhood Safety Department, which has undermined unarmed public safety response. Work to eliminate the backlog of unsolved police investigations. In our city, every victim and survivor deserves to get answered. Increase interdepartment communication to ensure a more efficient public safety response. Expand the city's community safety ambassador program to the city's 7 cultural districts. These are all, in my mind, no-brainers. On approaching unsheltered homelessness with compassion. Prevent rental evictions, the largest contributor to homelessness, by establishing a just cause eviction policy. Work with the city council to pass and implement safe parking and safe outdoor spaces ordinances grounded in consent and evidence-based practices in which service and health needs to be addressed. Pivot from the practice of evicting encampments when there is nowhere for the residents to go, and instead work with other jurisdictions to ensure immediate access to safe alternative locations with increased access to essential services. Support a housing first model, very important, to approach homelessness, as has been successful in other jurisdictions like Salt Lake City, in partnership with the county and state. Take a public health approach to encampments to ensure that residents have access to life-saving infrastructure like hand-washing stations, portable bathrooms, running water, safe needle disposal programs, and storage for personal belongings. Work closely with Hennepin County and state of Minnesota to build and operate shelters that homeless residents want to live in while we work to get them into housing, investing in successful low-barrier models like Aviva Villages and the Stable Homes, Stable Schools program. Establish a South Minneapolis Tiny Homes Village. Work to establish accessible navigation hubs to connect residents experiencing homelessness with the services they need, and establish low-barrier job opportunities for people experiencing homelessness. These are all such good policies.
Can confirm as a former 911 dispatcher, most of the calls we sent police to could have been handled better by other resources, but when you're only 2 Liz cops or ambulance.
100% sorry you're blue. Thank you for the $10 super chat. On investing in housing, build and maintain public housing at the federally allowed maximum level, which, hey, did you know that there was a federally allowed maximum level your city can build affordable housing at? That's kind of bullshit, isn't it? But okay, I guess. And support a dedicated levy to maintain this commitment. Enact a rent stabilization policy to ensure that renters can call Minneapolis home for generations to come. Establish a tenant opportunity to purchase act to ensure that renters have an additional tool to access home ownership. Support the affordable housing right of first refusal ordinance to preserve affordable housing and keep it locally owned rather than letting it be hoarded by venture capitalists and wealthy developers. Increase the supply of affordable housing through direct investment and incentives for affordable development by growing investments in programs like Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the 4D program, explore publicly owned social housing for residents at a variety of income levels, and support new housing development to ensure a regularly increasing supply. I'm genuinely baffled, right? They're saying that this guy is a double agent for Somalia because all of his policies are to steal from us to enrich the nation of Somalia. And I don't know about you guys, but I haven't been seeing many of these policies here have anything to do with Somalia. I don't know about you guys. Kind of indicates to me Matt Walsh is just like a disgusting racist. On protecting our communities from a hostile federal government, the city must act as the last line of defense, hand in hand with the county and state, as the federal government wages war on oppressed and vulnerable people. Work with immigrant rights organizations and support initiatives aimed at achieving full equality for immigrant residents, including right to legal counsel, support for undocumented students and families in public schools, and establishing clear consequences for Minneapolis Police Department officers who violate the city's separation ordinance. Ensure that events like the Trans Equity Summit are fully funded and prioritized. The current mayor has underfunded and mismanaged this event, resulting in the cancellation of the 2024 summit. That's right, he also cares about trans people, folks. Increase funding to services that support housing, safety, and economic justice, as LGBTQ+ and BIPOC people are some of the highest at risk for losing their housing, being over-criminalized by MPD, and being harassed by their employer. Enact a public health-centered approach to unsheltered homelessness that prioritizes the humanity of those who have the least. This approach is in opposition to the policy shared by the Frey administration and the Trump-appointed Supreme Court. Work to ensure that Minneapolis remains a safe haven for people seeking abortions and gender-affirming care. Essential healthcare services like these are under attack from the federal government. It makes a lot of sense to me why Matt Walsh would hate this man. Because this man wants what is good for the working people and the impoverished, and Matt Walsh only wants those people to fucking die.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion, you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.